What's up, guys? It's your boy Mike here from the Sophisticated Neanderthal channel. I wanted to do a review today of the Orient Triton, which I think is probably the best dive watch under $500 in the world. So let's take a look at it and see how it compares to some others. So before we start the review of the Orient Triton, I thought I'd just do a quick wrist check. And 90% of the time when I do a wrist check, this is what you're going to see on my wrist. The Breitling Super Ocean 42 in Volcano Black. I pretty much wear this one just about every day. So that's the obligatory wrist check. Now let's get on to the review. All right, guys. So here is the Orient Triton dive watch. You can get this on Amazon right now for about $450. There are a couple of sellers on Amazon that are charging upwards of $750 to $800 for it, but if you look for the right seller, you can certainly get this under $500. And I just want to go through a couple of the specs here really quickly before we kind of talk about the watch in and of itself. So what we have is we have a 43.4 millimeter case. Lug width is 22 millimeters, and the case thickness is 13.6. So it's really a good contemporary size. Yeah, quite a beefy watch, but not too big. Doesn't really stand out. The one thing I really love about this watch is the sunburst blue dial and the blue bezel. It's just beautiful. The camera's not going to do it justice. When you see this in person out in the sunlight, it just really, as much as I hate to say it, it really pops. It's a really nice looking watch. This is really what I would consider to be the next step up from the Orient Mako 2 or the Orient Ray 2, both in terms of usability and aesthetics. Both of those watches are great watches, but I find this one to be just a little bit nicer. Of course, a couple of the key features on here, you have the diver's bezel, which does have the time lapse that goes all the way around rather than just the 15. And then, where it just has the 20, 30, 40, 50. I really love the bezel on this. Very legible. Of course, you do get the lume pip at 12 o'clock. Another thing I really like about this watch is the applied indices are just amazing. They do have a little bit of a chrome outline that you can see there. The lume is, as usual with a Seiko or an Orient watch, is just astounding. It's as bright as can be. It lasts easily 8 hours. One of the interesting things about this watch that differentiates it from the Mako or the Ray, of course, is the 40-hour power reserve indicator up here. I think this is the first watch I've ever had with a power indicator, and I don't think it's necessary, but I think it's a nice touch on this watch. It gives it a little bit of a little more of an interesting look when you look down at it. Overall, in terms of durability, I've worn this watch quite a bit. It keeps great time. Of course, it's not a chronometer, but for me, it's kept really good time. The Triton comes with the Orient Caliber 40N5A. Which is a good movement. It's a bit of an upgrade from some of Orient and Seiko's other movements. It is, of course, hackable, hand windable, and you can see the power reserve go up as I wind. But really, all in all, a nice movement. Certainly, it's not a chronometer, but for me, it keeps time within probably 7 or 8, plus 7 or 8 or minus. It's really never been minus, but I'd say -1, maybe 2 a day. All right, so let's take a look at the case. So the case has a nice polish on the sides. I prefer the drilled lugs there. I think it gives it a nice look. It has a nice polish on the top of the case. The 22 millimeter lug width I personally prefer. I like the fact that it has a bit of a wider lug than some of the other divers that you might find out there in the size range. So let's take a look at the case back here. It's a very nice screw down case back. Has the Orient logo there. Yeah, it's a nice looking case back, and it certainly does the job. I do personally like the crown at the 4 o'clock position. I do prefer that to the 3 o'clock. I know that's just personal preference, but I think it gives it a nice aesthetic. The crown itself is a very nice size crown. And the way it is machined, easy to get a hold of. I actually do kind of like the fact that you've got kind of two sides to the crown, and then there is a rubber gasket in there. I find that it gives a really good, you know, grip on the crown, and it's easy to wind and easy to screw in. One of the things I really do like about this watch, and I'm going to take off the white glove here for just a second, the bezel action on this watch is maybe the best of any watch I have ever used. It gives you really good tactile feedback. It gives you a nice click feedback. Of course, it's 120 unidirectional bezel, and you could probably hear it click. I'll try to be quiet here and take it around once. So you definitely know when you're moving it. It's the feel on it though is just amazing. There's a tad bit of play once you get it where you want it, and I think I went one too far there. But there's a little bit of play in it, but that doesn't really bother me much. All right, of course, this is rated as a diver's 200 meters, which certainly you can take recreational scuba diving, skin diving, snorkeling, in the pool, in the shower. Not going to have to worry about any water intrusion into the case. Moving on to the bracelet. The bracelet is probably a little bit lackluster in terms of what this watch could have been. I think if they would have put a milled clasp on instead of the stamped clasp, and don't get me wrong, this clasp was good. It's a double button deployant with the safety clasp that comes down. It's very secure. The only thing I don't like about it is that it does have the stamped clasp instead of milled. Not a deal breaker for me. When I'm wearing it, I don't feel any different. It's just when I take it off and you kind of look at it, it's not quite as good quality as some of the bracelets with the milled clasp. The bracelet in and of itself, 22 millimeters. It tapers down to maybe 20 and a half. Nice brushed bracelet. You can see there I do have some scratches at the 6 o'clock on the 6 o'clock side, but where I tend to really scratch up my bracelets is up here on the 12 o'clock side. Desk diving, I tend to knock them around a little bit. You may, if you've watched any of my older videos, you know that little scratches like that don't bother me at all. It's going to happen. But we've got the nice brush surface on the top, and we've got the really nice polished surface here on the side links. One thing about this watch, the other thing that is a bit of a detraction of what it really could be, but again, at this price point, really can't complain that much. See if I can get this zoomed in down here. I'll just lift it up here a little bit. Is that it uses Seiko and Orient's push pin and collar versus screw-in links. Again, not a deal breaker for me. I've never had any problems with this type of bracelet from Orient or Seiko. Just would have been a nice touch if they would have done screw-in links, but again, you're getting a great watch at you know, under $500. You're going to have to expect probably some corners cut, and I'd rather them cut the corners in terms of how the links connect and a little bit on the clasp than cutting corners with the dial, the bezel, the case, or the crown. So it's a really good watch. I can't really say anything negative about it other than, you know, those couple of little quirks And like I said, in terms of dollar per dollar, I certainly understand why it doesn't have screw-in links, and I certainly understand why it doesn't have a milled clasp. Overlooking those two things, it almost is the perfect everyday wear / dive watch for casual wear. This does come also with a black dial and black bezel, but this blue is just amazing. Again, the video is not going to do it justice even in 4K, but if you get a chance to look at one of these out in the wild, you'll see that the blue on this is just really, really amazing. You can pick this watch up on Amazon. You can also pick this up at Long Island Watch. Again, I don't know Mark from Long Island Watch, although I have bought watches from him, and I think I bought this one from him as well. I have always had great customer service and great experience using Long Island Watch. And again, on Amazon for about $4.50, you can pick this up. All in all, just wanted to do a short little review of this watch, and if you've got any questions about my experiences with it, just leave me a question down in the comments. If you've got any thoughts about other watches that rival this in terms of the price point, let me know. I think the main competitor to this would probably be something like the SKX, the Seiko SKX, although the SKX is, going to be about half the price of this, and doesn't come with the features that this does in terms of hacking, hand winding. The movement's not quite as good. The build quality, well, I think the build quality on the Seiko SKX is fine. This is just a little bit more refined and a little bit nicer. Nice touches here, like the Orient logo on the side of the crown. Nice chapter ring in there. Everything is perfectly lined up. And yeah, anyway, if you're looking for a budget diver in the $500 or less range, I'm not sure you can do better than this. So I hope you enjoyed the review. Just a short one this time. Let me know your thoughts, comments, and we'll see you on the next video.